Don't wait till the night before Christmas to be good.
And in 3, 2, 1, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of the 8th annual 12th podcast of Christmas. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Francois the Nation.
I'm Andrew Sorsdahl.
I'm Frank Sinatra, and today with us is our dear friend,
Brad Peterson.
Perfect.
Will Ardell.
This is Will Ardell. Will is a customer of ours. He's also a dear friend of the company. Will is Outlaw Country.
Yeah, I kind of gravitate all over the map. Just depends on what goes on in my head, which is a lot of different things. But yeah, I would say more in the outlaw vein-ish, somewhere in there.
I was actually not that long ago. I don't know if it was something that came up. Like I was probably a related thing because I think I was watching Highway to the Sun again, and I was watching one of your old videos. I think it was you in studio. Like it was a video shot with you in studio recording.
Is that what would that have been? Make Me a Man? Down
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
We recorded that in what's that? What's that show where they buy stuff out of the containers that they bid on it?
Oh, shipping? No.
Storage Wars.
Storage Wars. It was in a storage container where we shot that.
Really?
All of that, yeah,
That's super cool.
That whole album was recorded in a storage container.
That's so interesting. And like it's a pretty well done little video.
Yeah, it was what's the guy's name? Joe. I can't remember his name if he's listening, but yeah, we shot that while we were actually recording the album down there. Just a quick little thing to go along with the song.
Yeah, it turned out really well. And like I noticed your sound is quite a bit different from then.
It's changed a lot, but I mean, I've changed too. It's been 10 years, right? So
absolutely.
You grow and you kind of gravitate toward where you find your niche, right? I think at that time you're doing a lot of exploring what you want to do as per sound, and I wasn't sure in a lot of ways. So you're listening to a lot of other people. They're telling me we got to do this, and you know, I still love all the tracks off that album. I just found as I got older and started going in different directions, just a little bit different direction, different vein, getting out there and cutting some path in the woods that I hadn't been before, and found that was more kind of my thing.
So I wonder, do people that, not necessarily only just fans, but industry collaborators, do they feel that's weird when you make that kind of a shift? Did it happen gradually or quickly?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just something you have to do what feels right for you, right? And I think if you're trying to force yourself up there to have a certain sound to maybe fit in with a trend or what's currently popular, and you're forcing yourself to do that, I think you start losing the passion for it because it's not you.
Right.
It's that, I shouldn't say you're pretending, but you're doing something that you'd rather be doing something different in a sense. And I think that's for me where I decided to go. I don't know if people think that's, industry, it's harder to do that. Maybe it is, but then you get to the point where you just don't care. Like, what do you got to lose?
That's a good
just go ahead and do it.
And what's harder in the long run, like doing what you love to do. And yeah, maybe it takes longer to get that audience or like you said, kind of, I hate to use the term sell out because I think it's such a bullshit term, but like compromising what you love to try to fit what the industry thinks is
and I think
viable.
From that perspective too, I kind of look at it, I'm never going to be a famous, what people consider famous nowadays, and I'm okay with that. For me, it was always wanting to write songs and deliver them that it was completely 100% who I was, and wherever that takes me is where it takes me. I think that's kind of why working with Aspen, going in that direction, is that I feel more satisfied doing what I'm doing now than what I did before.
See, I think that's amazing. And actually, if I'm being honest and I look at kind of different audiences I see, I don't know if pop country is all as popular as it once was.
It had that real big surge, what they call the bro country, back in the, I guess, 2000s and or mid 2000s and
like
such.
Florida Georgia line,
yeah,
kind of near like that.
Yeah. And I don't begrudge anybody for doing what they have to do as far as making the music they want to make. For me, I was never going to be a great pop star. I have no rhythm as far as dancing. I don't I don't look the part very well. So I'm more am on that rugged side as far as how I write, and occasionally write fairly dark, some of the songs that I do write. So I like telling those kind of stories, and that doesn't always work in a more pop setting.
Right.
So.
And I mean, really, songs that have lasting power. I mean, there's obviously like this small window of like some early Alan Jackson kind of style where it's a little bit poppier, but it has some lasting power because I think it's musically pretty good. But all the country music we look back on, in that huge 50-year window is, with all the Johnny Cash stuff and those amazing artists. It's all slower, darker.
When you look at who's relevant now, you look at like Chris Stapleton, you guys look like Stapleton, like Jennings, even like a guy
Tyler
like
Childers.
Yeah, I love him.
And amazing songwriters. Like,
Yeah.
the people always say, well, country's dead. It's not there. It is still there. It's very,
You just need to
very
get
alive.
off of prime country.
It's very alive and well. There's some, even the ones in our province, like we've talked before we started here, like Coulter Wall and Blake Berglund and all these guys that are writing some amazing songs. So it's very alive and well. And Corblund is another one in Canada here that there's such an, I wouldn't even say it's underground. It's become fairly mainstream with the amount of people that know of these names now. So, granted, they're not always on our FM AM stations, but with the digital age and social media and YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff's out there and you can find it. It doesn't take much digging anymore.
No, and I think that's good for, artists that have been a bit more of it. It's easier to find. I also think things like, I jump into a lot of people's vehicles, and I mean, mind you, I grew up in rural Saskatchewan. A lot of people listen to Outlaw Country, like the Sirius XM station Outlaw Country. Like, it's very, very popular, and people that I never thought would be listening to that genre of music are really into it.
Oh, they are, and it's even, obviously in your urban centers, a lot of people still listen to that too. So there's been a definite resurgence. I think everything is somewhat cyclical in how it operates, right? And you take the advantage of it when you can. And I think as a songwriter and doing what I do, and I can just speak for myself, the way I try to do is just to keep writing songs that hopefully or first of all resonate with me and the stories that I want to relay, but also if it resonates with other people, that's even a bonus. And I think that's all you can really worry about is your own little, what you're planning on doing. And everybody else will do what they do.
I mean, that's all there is to it. And I think especially for people, it's kind of tough. We work a lot in rock, and we also actually do a lot of country. But when I see rock artists, and we were kind of talking a little bit about this off camera, and like, what does that model look like moving forward? Almost every country singer I've seen, they have like a mainstay band, but sometimes that switches in and out, and they do a lot of acoustic solo stuff. Is the country band dead? Is it all? It seems like everybody is X and the somethings because they want to play with and without them. And
I don't think it's dead. I think if you're fortunate enough to have to build an identity as a band, that's perhaps the trickiest thing. You can there's some really good players. You can interchange players. I think it's a little bit harder sometimes to build that identity. What I've noticed, because if you're constantly rotating through players, everybody's got their own style, right? So it's finding those guys that like the good bands. Like you look at, I'll just give an example, like Led Zeppelin or Guns N' Roses, or people that played with Merle Haggard's band, as guys like that. They built an identity and a sound that was recognizable, and I think that perhaps can be a struggle sometimes because everybody's playing in different areas, and then trying to herd guys to go to shows. So it's like herding cats sometimes. Everybody's got stuff going on, right? And shows have been at a standstill the last 2 years. So I like playing with a band for ease of shows. Sometimes it's just easier for me to pick up my acoustic, and a lot of my stuff lends itself to an acoustic as well.
right.
There's some stuff it's really nice to have a band for, I think, because it really brings the sound out. It really makes everything, it just gives that extra punch.
Is it tough to take a song that has a ton of instrument and try and make it an acoustic thing? Because I imagine it's not just you playing your regular acoustics part.
You look at guys like Chris Cornell, they could read the phone book and it would sound good, right? So you have to maybe adjust it. Like I know Highway to the Sun, playing it acoustically is a bit different than if you were to play with a full band, because when you get to the end of that song, it's hammering, it's pumping, it's loud, playing it acoustically, you kind of lose some of that. You don't have the bass, you don't have the drums kicking in, you don't have the everything else. So I try to alter it a bit. I'm doing that kind of thing and making it work. You run through it a few times, and if it fits, it fits. So it takes a bit of an adjustment sometimes.
So, I mean, yeah, it must be exciting, especially when we're in this stage where people can't get together that often. When you're with a full band, it probably feels awesome. And, like, getting to play those songs.
I love it. Like,
full blast.
I do last few months now, we've been doing a little bit of just jamming locally. There was some amazing folks that I live and work with there, but it's so much fun. Like, you just get into it, and sometimes you just get in that groove, and there's no pressure. You're just kind of running through a bunch of songs that and it's so fun. Like, I like it loud to the point where my head hurts. Yeah. And a lot of people maybe don't like it that way, but I do. I like to go home and just feel like that pulsing in my head. I know it's going to hurt me when I get older, and I'll not be able to hear a train going by. But to me, that's fun. It's the emotion, it's the feeling, it's that intensity that I really enjoy.
I can't blame you. I mean, even just being an audience member in seeing some return to live music, I don't even really care what garbage it is. It's like, it's just nice to feel the bass hitting you. You know what I mean? Like,
it smacks you like a punch to the chest. Yeah. And I hear you.
It's exhilarating.
It's something I love personally. Like, I could sit there and watch bands play all day. Yeah. I really could. And I'm glad we're starting to do more of that, especially this last fall here and or last summer, I guess, too. But let's hope it continues, because as far as speaking for myself, and I'm assuming a lot of other musicians and artists, it's nice to get back on that stage and then to feel the crowd.
Yeah. The industry needs it.
Oh, yeah.
Too, so,
like, even the Dog Patch last year was one of the best shows that I've been a part of in quite a while. Like, just the energy.
Yeah. It was such a, like, especially the time that it happened, it really felt like everyone there, like, once everyone got there, it was like this weight collectively was lifted off people's shoulders, and it was like this release that everyone needed of, like, getting out of the city, being somewhere, where there's not people, like, you're with people, but it's not like on top of you, like you're in the city.
Yeah, and you're surrounded by people that are all there for the same reason, that really enjoy it. Yeah. When you get a crowd that's responsive, it's like the best feeling in the world. And I always laugh, because I tell people this. I get off stage, and I don't care if there's 2 people or 2,000. Not that I've ever been in those big shows yet, but to me, it's like I just got to have 10 minutes just to, like, catch your breath, because you try to put so much out there as best you can. And I love that feeling. Like, you've just run a marathon, singing as hard as you can, interacting as best you can. And when people are responsive too, because some nights, people aren't, and some nights they are. Yeah. And the nights that they are, it's like the best feeling in the world. It's like the biggest high you could ever have.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And I just remember being at even small shows, and just, like, the energy of a few people can even be very powerful stuff.
Yeah, and especially if they like your stuff, the energy, if they don't like, it's even better.
Well, all you need to do is be at a League of Wolves concert in Cambridge, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, the boys go pretty nuts for their League of Wolves.
There's like 5 or 6 people at the front of the stage. Doesn't even matter what they're playing, just headbanging. And you'll understand you don't need a large crowd to... Yeah.
And that's what you do it for, Like, I couldn't even imagine what it'd be like to play for 20,000 people, but I could just the noise alone would be enough to just give you goosebumps, I think, right? Like, I know, like, the Dog Patch last year, as I drove home, I couldn't sleep. Like,
you were just pumped,
just wired, right? And I told my girlfriend, I said, well, she was going to drive back, because I didn't sleep the night before the show, because you're just pumped about going up there. And then I said, we're going up. I said, maybe you should drive back, because I probably could use a couple hours sleep. And I couldn't sleep, so I just
drove the whole
way home. Get home at like 5 or 6 in the morning. You still can't sleep. So, but it's that kind of stuff is just so enjoyable. I just love it.
See, that's awesome. And I look at like the old footage of, like, Live Aid in Wembley Stadium, like, all those people in there. It's like, holy man, and they're just
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that? I think that was Wembley Stadium, when you watch him just command the crowd.
Like, that's crazy.
I can't remember how many people were in that, but when they're just going along with him, and Dale, and they repeat it back. It's just insane. Like, could you imagine the feeling that would give you?
And like Freddie Mercury saw and did a lot of incredible things in his lifetime, but I'm sure that even had him worked up.
And a showman,
sure.
like an unreal showman. Like the guy was just probably one of the best. I was fortunate enough to hear when we were down in Nashville. I heard one of the recordings of him. I can't remember which track it was. It was in the RCA Studio B, I believe it was. Anyway, we were up there, and one of the producers that was working with us, but he had a recording of Freddie singing unfiltered, no effects, and it was like perfect pitch.
Really?
And that's just insane. Like the amount of people that can actually be perfect pitch like that was just, to hear a guy with that kind of ability is pretty incredible.
I saw some video that was going around social media about Freddie Mercury and how he's one of the only, he might have the perfect voice based on his range and his ability to hit. Like, I can't remember. It was a while ago I saw
Like
it,
some
but
scientific kind of.
there's like he's one of the only singers in history that was able to hit the low notes that he can hit as well as the high notes that he can hit.
Just the octave range
the octave range and like how precise it was.
Here's one really interesting thing for me. I regularly talk to Saskatchewan musicians, and they're like in Toronto recording, or if they're country artists, they're down. We were down in Nashville, or I was just down in Nashville. Is there like a connection? How do you decide to go down to Nashville? Do you just walk down there with your suitcase like, I'm here to record music, who wants to help?
Well, it was the first album we got. How did I meet these? I can't remember how I met. It was through the first album we ended up going down there and making some phone calls, and then hang on, back that up. I met a guy on Facebook that was from Nashville, guitar player, and then that's how I contacted him because I was still kind of doing my demos at home there, pretty rough demos and that, and we ended up going to work with a guy through him that he knew down there because everybody knows somebody in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up going down there and spent the money. And it's a nice experience for sure.
I was going to say the experience alone has got to be.
It's overwhelming. In retrospect, should I have done it on my first album? No.
Right.
I was not ready for any of it.
Right.
I didn't start doing a lot of the music stuff till I was 28,
Right.
27. So I was nowhere seasoned by any means. I was just a kid and wide-eyed in a candy store, right? No clue what I was doing. Didn't have any confidence in my abilities. So that's probably not the place you want to go first crack.
Yeah, definitely.
Because these guys were so good that they would listen to one of my demos on this CD player and didn't like all they do is write down their Nashville chart. The first time the musicians went through it, the second time they laid down the whole track in that one take. I'm like, yeah, this is a little bit more advanced than me. Here's me trying to mangle my fingers around the C chord,
So they were just like so leagues above.
Oh yeah, like the one guy, I think he used to be the former band director for Bob Seger.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking
shit.
Apples and oranges to me. These guys were amazing musicians, and here's me at. I just barely mastered the D7.
Yeah.
So
Got your cape one backwards.
yeah, playing behind the capo.
Yeah. Exactly.
So but working with Aspen now too, and very fortunate that way because as you guys know, Aspen and Grieg and all the musicians are very, very talented people, and it's actually felt more comfortable working here.
Yeah.
And it also that you're supporting local artists, local producers, local studios, yourselves as well. I think that that's probably what a guy should do more of at the end of the day.
Well, I think one thing that we're specifically with regards to Saskatchewan I wouldn't say we're combating, but a goal that we have is certainly to elevate how people look at the things that come out of Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. Because right now, I don't think people definitely outside of the province aren't aware of just the incredible music scene we have, specifically in Saskatoon, but the province as a whole. It's like you wouldn't expect it. And I mean, that's part of the problem is that people assume Saskatchewan
Oh, it's
music's not on that list.
It's we were talking. Weapons is having great success now. Coulter Wall, and there's so many.
Tennille Arts is doing.
Tennille, Bell Plain, Blake Berg, all these guys we've talked about. It's just amazing artists that have really done some amazing things so far, with innovative sound, and kind of breaking down barriers in North America and the world right now.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, there's a very, very active scene in the Dead South, for example, too.
Massive export.
It's like quality per capita right now is it's high, right?
Saskatchewan's always had totally different realm, but we produce more NHL players per capita than any other place in the world. Saskatchewan, I think, produces a lot of excellence in a very small quantity, like comparatively to everyone else. But for the number of people we have, it's certainly not, it's not unheard of to have. Like I said, Brock Lesnar fucking moved here. You know what I mean? Like he had that connection with Coulter Wall. I actually think that's kind of the reason he moved here, because I think that Coulter Wall thing. Because how the hell would he even know? Where this is. Like,
I love this province, and I spent a lot of time back in kind of the area where I grew up there between Lucky Lake and Dinsmore, and I was always saying that when I was 20 years old, I couldn't wait to leave this rural area, and we got to go to the city with the bright lights and all the fame and the glory and that. And I got 40 here about a month ago, and I would love to be back in those areas again, because Saskatchewan's so beautiful. Once you get off the number, a lot of people go through on the number one, they go, "Well, there's nothing here."
Yeah.
This province is full of amazing scenery, amazing people.
I gotta say, like, one thing that's incredible about what we do is we do a lot of location filming, especially for country music videos, and we get out to fucking everywhere.
Nowhere.
We grew up near the Sandhills, so that's why we shot there. But we filmed the Great Sandhills. Like, our buddy has a film and photography company in Climax, like right near the U.S. border. We were down in where the hell is Krista Holford from?
It's like right near the U.S. border down there.
Not Frontier.
No, further east, quite a ways. By the Big Muddy.
It's near Weyburn. What's it called?
Radville. Yeah. She's kind of in the Radville area, south of Radville.
It's somewhere else.
I can't remember what the little town's called, but it's south of Radville.
Yeah.
And and then we're up north in PA and shit. And I would really like to go up further north.
Yeah. It's amazing when you look on the map too. Like, well, Saskatoon's got to be about halfway up the province. It's like, no, not even close, right? Like, when you start looking up north, it's like, oh, there's a long way to go. I've always wanted to go up further north. I had a job opportunity to go up. I think it was Geeky River. I think that's what it's called. Don't quote me on that, but I could have gone up there and worked running grader on the roads up there, and you'd stay in a camp. They had a camp facility all set up for you, and they said you'd basically walk out the camp in the evenings. You could fish about 50 yards away from the campsite, and it would have just been beautiful. I think it's the furthest road that the highways that I work for maintains at that time. So it would have just been an amazing experience. I never did do it, but it would be something. I've never been that far north, and I would love to have gone up there.
One day I'd like to get. I think the furthest north I've been is like Christopher. Like, you've been up fairly far.
I think I might have been up the furthest.
Yeah.
We used to go when my dad was around. We would go on a fishing trip every year.
Mm-hmm.
I only got to go a couple times because I wasn't old enough, but they would go regularly, and they would drive from Regina to Mississippi,
right,
and then take a float plane from Mississippi, 45 minutes in a float plane north to Oliver Lake.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty far up there.
It's pretty far. If you look on a map, it's you're 45 minutes. There's nothing. Like, they're running off a diesel generator kind of thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. Like,
amazing.
I guided for a guy up at Lane Lake when I was doing bear guiding up there for him. This was years ago, but we were right on the northern edge of the PA forest, and I loved going through the bushes up there. Just, you want to feel insignificant.
Yeah,
go walking out there. I'm not so tough anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just waiting for the tap on the shoulder from this bear to go, hey,
you're in my turf now, buddy.
Turf. And I locked the gate. You're with me. So yeah, it was fun. I love it.
I mean, it's so funny how much diversity even there is, like, in a place like Saskatchewan. I get home and, like, people are like, fucking guy south number one highway. That's where the weirdos live. That's where everything's different. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to get near the French and River Valley. That's where the guys really fuck. And then we have a buddy who grew up in Regina. I went to school in Saskatoon, and then he ended up moving to Paris. He's a doctor in Paris. And it was Canada Day many years ago now, and he found this Canadian bar in Paris where they like have Caesars and poutine and stuff. And it's all decked out. And he went for Canada Day. Yeah. And he's like, I'm sitting there at a table with like a guy from Vancouver, a guy from Oshawa, Ontario, a Newfie. And he's like, we had so much in common that if we were back home, we couldn't have been more different. Yeah. But because of the place we were in, it was all just similarities. Like, holy shit, we're more, we're more like each other than we realized.
We went. My friend had a wedding in Mexico. This is 2013. But you're speaking of finding Canadians. So we were at the resort there, and of course, first thing you do is you belly up to the bar, and I'm sitting there, and I overhear this guy just kind of across the corner. He said something over to his friend. He goes, "Was that what you think there, eh, bud?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
He's crazy.
We started drinking. He's from Edmonton. Then we started talking rigs at the time and working the oil patch. And then that night, there was about 10 of us. And we all got together. We got the resort to get us a guitar. And we were singing songs and just drinking by the pool. And we were the last ones left. And I was just, like you said, you find Canadians everywhere. And you just party it up. And yeah, good bunch of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, he said it was pretty incredible. It was like a couple of Canadian guys who just were in Paris, and the Canadian locals go there, and that's their bar that they hang out at. I guess, like, obviously Paris is a massive city, so he didn't live anywhere near the bar. He had to, like, cab to go over to it or whatever, but still pretty cool that he could find that. And, all these guys are a lot more normal, or a lot more like each other than you'd think.
Well, my nephew lives in Holland, too, and they worked over there. Him and his girlfriend live over there. But the Canadians are treated absolutely like royalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the World War II history that involved. And he said you were a Canadian backpack anywhere.
You're treated like gold. I know. Yeah. They used to have like liberation parties in Holland. My great uncle was part of the force that liberated, and he went back every year until he was like 85. He used to fly over there, and he's like, it was a pretty wild party, even in the 70s and 80s. It's like we had fun. And I'm like, holy shit. Well, fair enough.
I've never been over there, and I'd always liked to, because like my family is originally from Finland, and there's still the my sisters have both been over to Finland, but there's still the original homestead stone foundation where our family came from. I think it'd be really cool. I'd love to explore that whole Europe side of things, because I've never done it, and I would someday hope to go over there and visit.
I've never. The only time I've been was we had a layover in the Amsterdam airport on our way to Africa. But so to me, it's always weird, because usually those people,
yeah,
that's the thing. It wasn't long enough to actually
Vegas look
go
like church.
Yeah. I would have loved to actually experience it, but just got to see the airport.
So you're Finnish from your dad's side, or both? Both. You're full Finn.
Yeah, so that was kind of how my mom's family emigrated. 1890 or something, and I think my dad's was roughly around all the time when all the people were coming over, 40 acres and a mule. So yeah, they both came over. There was, I know from my dad's side, there was 4 brothers that came over back then. They originally would New York to Michigan.
Yeah.
And 3 of them went back, and 1 of them stayed, and then ended up moving up to Saskatchewan. So,
which is crazy. Like, a lot of my family, like, they all emigrated from Western Europe. Like,
well, your family story, like the whole Peterson Hotel thing, is also very interesting.
Well, I mean, like, I guess, like, part of my family is Norwegian and Swedish, and the other half is like English and German. But like back then, the difference between the UK and Germany and North America, and Finland and Norway and North America, like, that's a huge fucking difference in land. Because you're not just a quick flight.
No,
like, that adds months to trying to get over.
And boats and cramped conditions.
Like, and Finland is a fucking far away from Germany, let alone cross the ocean. Like, you might as well go the other way.
Well, there was always a joke, because where I grew up too, it's like in what they call the Coteau Hills there, it's just rocks, and there's rocks everywhere. It's more good for cattle than it is for farming. But the joke was that, when all these Scandinavians came over, they walked right over the really high assessed good land for growing crops. Yeah. Said, hey, there's some rocks. Let's go farm there, because it was something that they were used to, right? Yeah. That was their that was their kind of their thing. So, but yeah, it's really cool. They did a back to, I think, 1650 something on the genealogy search. So that's just, I'm always fascinated by history. Doesn't matter what it is, right? I love that kind of stuff.
So your grandpa homesteaded near Lucky Lake?
It would have been my great grandpa.
Great grandpa?
Yeah. I think, Jacob would have been his name. I believe. Yeah, and then that was kind of the where it all came from here.
Yeah,
And the rest is history.
Our farm was founded in. They applied in 8, and we homesteaded in 10.
Yeah.
That was my great grandfather Peter, and then
He begot.
Peter.
And the Lord said, "Let there be a Brad."
Yeah, let there be more Petersons.
Peter begot Elmer, begot.
Well, Goldbrand was Peter's father. Peter was Elmer's father. Elmer was Gary's father, and I'm Gary's son.
Yeah.
But yeah, like from what I can remember, my great grandfather was like a shoemaker in Michigan. Like, they came over and did their trade, and then it was like, hey, we got great land out here for you to come and freeze in a fucking sod hut. Come on over.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
Speaking of that, I have how does that work? So my dad's, how does that work again? Anyway, a relative of mine, I can't remember how he's related to me, but he had one of the first nudist colonies in Michigan. Little known fact.
a nasty Finn coming over to try some European shit. Girls, try this out.
So if you ever see somebody running down the street naked, it's probably me.
Runs in the blood.
Runs in the blood, right? I told the cops that. They didn't agree with me.
Apparently the guy that ran at the Rider game's getting fined. Usually they don't do that, but he's getting some kind of fucking penalty.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, some guy.
He evaded them for a while, though.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job, actually. One thing I was going to say is we brought up a little bit earlier, but Corbin is doing his return to barroom tour.
Yes, back to the bar rooms.
Which I think is very, very cool.
I think I'm going to have to get a VIP ticket for the cap.
When is he here? February
8th, 9th, and Leah thinks they might get a third date out of him.
Nice.
I probably shouldn't have said that, but whatever, fuck it.
Yeah, Corb's been around for a lot of years, and it's nice to see that, right? Because he's built up quite a reputation. Great songwriter, great person, and a hell of a band behind him too. Definitely be a show I'd love to see if I can make it.
Yeah. I've seen him twice. He actually came to Hazlet one time. I don't know how the hell they ever finagled that. And then somebody fucking stole his Oilers jersey, and then he vowed he would never come back. Like, some drunk asshole. Fuck him. And they weren't even from our area. Everyone's pretty sure they were from Gull Lake. Fuckers. And anyway, and then he was at the Coors Event Center in Saskatoon when it was O'Brien's or whatever. And I got VIP tickets, and he did I think he's doing the same thing now, like a little private acoustic show beforehand.
I've never seen Corb live, and that might be my chance to do it now.
It's awesome.
I think the last time, was he at the Odeon one time?
Yeah. That's when I saw him, whatever it was, O'Brien's or the Odeon.
I couldn't make that one when I was, but yeah, that's something I'd definitely be interested in. I'm going to keep
and we actually, we have a bit of a connection with Corb because the director that we co-directed JJ Voss, 2 of his videos for, Joel Stewart, was the guy who directed a lot of Corb's music videos.
Oh, okay.
So we had a really good night with Joel one night while we were filming in Moose Jaw, and he was telling us lots of awesome stories about working with Corb and fucking scheduling Taylor Swift to be on CMT and stuff. And he has lived quite a long life, but I don't know if I think it's Truck Got Stuck video, where
dolly?
Corb is moving and the camera's moving at the same time. So they had like a dolly set up where the guy would normally sit in the chair to run the dolly. They just turned the camera on and Corb sat in the chair, and then they walked with the camera, and that's how they got that effect of him moving in front of everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool story about that. And he did some pretty interesting filming techniques and stuff. And I mean, that stuff was, that's archaic compared to what we're filming with now. They had a lot more struggle, but Joel was awesome to work with. And it was kind of our first time we got to work with. Outside. He was kind of like our Nashville, like, do we actually know what the fuck we're doing?
Yeah.
We were a little bit more seasoned than you were when we met him, thankfully. But there's kind of this Mexican standoff because he's like, I could tell he was like, all right, these are some hotshot young kids. How good are they? And am I a washed up old man? And we're like, fuck, this guy's directed some big stuff. And he knows like Rod Stewart. Like, I better fucking
Would
watch
you
it.
sign this, please?
Yeah, exactly. So that was really cool. But yeah, it didn't take long and we got along really well.
Built a good rapport pretty rapidly.
And it was, what I loved about Joel is once he became comfortable with us, he really let us take over production. But he was there to add a lot of just nice little sprinkles of this and that, things that in that stage in our filmmaking career we wouldn't have thought of. And that was so routine for him. Yeah,
and I think maybe you guys felt the same way too when you first doing something like that with somebody who's a seasoned veteran. Like I struggled with the first album too because I didn't have a voice. I wasn't confident in what I thought I would like to change and everything. So you just shut up and take it. Like that's, you're a rookie on the bench. So whatever the old guys say you do, that's what you do, right? So I think that's one thing I would have probably liked to have eased into better, because now looking back, I would go like, oh, I would change this and maybe alter this. But yeah, it's quite an experience to go through something like that, right? But like you said, if you guys are a little more seasoned at the time, it's not as bad.
Yeah, I mean, we were still fucking rookies compared to him, but we weren't like fumbling rookies, thankfully, because that not only, it's like, number one, it's creative endeavor. Number two, we're being paid to be there. So if he made us look really stupid, it's like, I don't know why you're charging my visa, but get out of here, because Joel can just do this on his own. Leave the equipment.
Right.
Cut the crew fee, leave the equipment. And we'll just do it ourselves. Thanks, guys, for coming. But
it happened to
grab another drink.
I'd do one as well.
You want a shot there, boys, or what?
Yeah,
we might as well.
One in Rome, as they say.
Yes, one in Rome. But no, it seems to kind of work out really well, because Joel didn't seem to be as much of like a hands-on, like wanted to run the camera himself to direct.
Yep.
He seemed very very okay with like he had his vision. We were collaborating on that, and then very much let us take the reins in terms of like cinematography and actually operating all the equipment. So
that's really cool. Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience. And I've never done the filmmaking side of it. But yeah, I know that when you're starting to go into something like that and you're kind of still a little bit greener on the edges, it's always that learning curve and getting to be confident in your own abilities and do all that too. It definitely takes a while.
Well, one thing I'm very curious about is just because we've been with Aspen through and seen him do and seen you guys even do some of the recording process. And one thing I wanted to ask about was just like what your writing process was like, and do you and Aspen collaborate a lot in that front, or is it mostly you bringing that to the table and Aspen like maybe tweaking it here and there?
It's a lot where like a lot of the songs for the Truth album came from a time when it was pretty rough. Like I had a breakup in a relationship at the time, and I was not in the best frame of mind. So some of the songs came from nights where, I was drinking quite a bit, and you're doing whatever you have to do to not struggle.
Yeah.
But I would go into the room and I would write songs, and that's what I would do. And so all these songs came to be, and over the course of those couple of years where it was, a little bit rocky, and then I would bring these to Aspen, and then his guidance and as far as ability as a producer and musician to make my rough and raw recordings to bring out that extra punch that you need for a song is phenomenal, right? So I would come in with the melody and the lyrics, and then I'd work with Aspen, and let's adjust this here, and let's do this, and let's put a stop here, and let's add this in here. And it just working with somebody like that gets what you're writing and what the focus of the song is so important, right?
And it sounds like he kind of works with you as opposed to kind of
absolutely
dictating this or that. Yeah,
absolutely. We take on every one of those tracks, for the most part, we've taken like the raw stuff, or we'll sit there and jam it out for a bit and say, well, we should change this a little bit, and maybe speed up the tempo, maybe slow it down. We've gone like unrestrained. I think we worked on 2 prior recordings of that, and then we were like, no, it doesn't really have the vibe we want. And
multiple iterations, and
because there's 2 versions we kind of sat down and did, and they were all right, they were good, like, but then when we hit this one, we're like, hey, this is the one, right? Because some days you go in there and for it's just the way it works out, it's all right, and some days you go in there and it's phenomenal, and some days just how it depends on the vibe. It's hard to explain sometimes. It just clicks, right? And we just unrestrained the last one here. The minute we started working on it, like, okay, that's the one. And Highway to the Sun was no different. He was absolutely instrumental and phenomenal in that too. Just to adjust the arrangement of it. Like I would hate to use the word genius producer, but he's phenomenal in that regard. Absolutely.
So I think that's amazing. I mean, the only thing that really comes close to that in our line of work, I think, is sometimes here, give Will one too. Fuck it.
Oh,
It's only a little guy.
you're gonna be carrying me out of here.
That's all right. I'll put it in drive
Cheers.
for you.
Cheers.
Put it in drive and push me down the lane and lock the door.
See ya.
I don't know who he is, officer.
Cheers.
Ooh.
I was going to say the only thing that really is
Poison.
because when we do, our creativity, a lot of it comes in the planning phase, and like the sitting and playing a song again and again and again. It's like, hey, what is the fucking concept of this song? And then a lot of times we'll come up with, usually the first idea in your head is like, well, especially with country music, oh, here's the narrative. It's like, it's so hard to not just shoot what the guy's singing about. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
we went to the bar. It's like, well, we got to find a bar. It's like, we don't have to find a bar. He can sing about being at a bar without being at a bar. And like, they don't have to do a shot right when the song says they're doing a shot.
It just doesn't lend country music because it tells so much of a specific, clear story in the a lot of the time, anyways. Especially with more not pop country,
like
but
the prime time,
more mainstream country. It doesn't lend itself as well to like more abstract thinking.
Alliteration. Yeah, it's yeah, and I agree. Like a lot of the stuff that I've been writing too has a little bit more of a. It's not as direct in the way it's delivered. Like I try to write where it can be applied to the
It's
situation.
like leading you to a certain place without just dragging you there.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
what I
like
find.
it's not like showing you this is a stick. It's like
Yeah.
talking about everything around the stick, but there's a stick there. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
no,
It's like-
absolutely.
Well, that's what I've liked about what's been really a treat in terms of working with you and your up until like Highway to the Sun. I feel like everything that we've done for all your other videos really suited those videos. Like you said, it was they're these very intimate songs. You can tell it comes from like you sharing about these dark places that you were in.
Yeah.
And so doing a video that's more, you and the camera and like small spaces and you're really focused on your face and singing, it really fit those songs.
And I think as trying to write songs like that too, I think in some ways that you try to make it really personal because, like I said, I'm not going to go up there, and I don't honestly. My personal thing, I don't find it challenging to write about beer trucks and back roads. That doesn't do it for me.
Right.
My strength is to write about something like wounded kids, very tough subject matter,
Yeah,
extremely tough subject matter. Try to bring something where it's like, okay, those songs are going to have some relevance in 30 years still. Because I don't want to be 80 years old up there singing about tailgates and cut off jeans.
It's like I'm going to see The Offspring in February, and we're going to see how that turns out. The lead singer of the PhD is in his 50s. So.
But that's me. I'm not saying anybody else can't do that, but I know from my perspective, it's not something that I'm going to be able to pull off effectively to do that because I don't have that persona to do it. So my persona would be better off suited to writing songs that, granted it's a niche market, it's maybe smaller in a sense, but it's better that I try to do what is something that's true to me, and then I because it delivers across to the people, then much better too.
Well, and then I guess like just kind of going off of what you're saying there, one thing I'm really interested in, and please, if it's not at a stage where it's ready to be talked about, tell me to go fuck myself. But I'm very interested in what's going to come of you and Kit, like starting that writing process together, and like hopefully that continues because I'm really interested to see what comes from that collaboration.
Absolutely, we've the rumor on the gram. No, we've worked on some stuff. Kit and I and Aspen have jammed for a bit together too, and
Awesome.
Great writers, great people, and I think if you have that combination, who knows where it could go.
Yeah,
so.
Speaking of Kit and you and Highway to the Sun, man, did that guy lend a performance for that fucking video.
Like, and the Oscar goes too.
Yeah, wow.
He shows up and he's like, he was all cool and casual. And I'm like, hey, like, would you be in this video? He's like, yeah, I think I can make that work. And we're meeting up to talk about it. He's like, actually, this is something I've wanted to do like my whole life. And I'm very passionate about doing a good job here. And like, whatever you need from me, like, I'll do it. Like, you need, like,
And-
what kind of motivation does this character have?
And I mean,
what are you going for?
I love that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? Because he's creative.
Totally.
That's the trouble. Like, we live in Saskatchewan, and we have, don't get me wrong, we have awesome talent that we work with, and we have a great talent agent that we generally work with to scout talent. But the problem is that a lot of these people are models. They're not actors. And acting just takes fucking experience, and there's nothing to act in for them to get experience. We've got this new music video coming up where we need a couple to get intimate and like make out. And I'm just like, I went to our talent agent. I'm like, I need a, I haven't told Fran this yet. I'm like, we need I want a couple. Like, if you have any couples in your roster, we'll take them because we don't have time to fuck around to get these people to feel comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And like, I can't imagine all the on some of the intensive on-screen intimacy I've seen. That is not fucking easy to pull off.
Especially in the Hollywood level stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't
So,
know.
and I went to these, and then unfortunately our talent agent contacted us like last night. And she's like, hey, the wife can't make it, but this other girl's going to do it. And I'm like, well, sure, if you're Ryan Gosling, then your wife doesn't mind you making out with this other girl in the movie. But you're now your wife's being swapped out for this other woman, and I'm going to make you make out a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, we also don't have experience directing that kind of thing. I'm comfortable doing it, I think. But again, you know,
We know we
Somebody
have
like
we have a pretty good roadmap on how not to do it.
yeah, we definitely
So,
have a good roadmap on that.
I think like as long as I think it's all about making people feel comfortable. at
But
the
I
end of the
feel
day.
for
So,
me, I think because I think we do have, we've gained a lot of chops directing because we've directed people who don't know how to be directed. So you really have to put a carrot in front of them and like really tell them what you want. Whereas Kit was a lot of one take, like, hey, this is the mood we're going for. It's like nailed it. You know what I mean? And like, I think we played off him well. Fran and Kit played well off each other for the motivation and stuff. So that is such a rewarding experience.
There's, you know, like I have a lot of high regard for people that can just walk in there and do stuff like that. Like it's tough. You know, everybody says they can do it, but you know how it is. It's like everybody says I can get up there on stage and sing. Well,
wait, get up on fucking stage and sing then.
Once you see the crowd going, those butterflies come up, right? It's a different story. So yeah, it's an amazing quality to have. Absolutely.
What was it tough? Do you remember the first time taking stage? And you're a bit of a shy guy. Was that tough?
Well, it was because I was always told that you can't do that, right? Growing up, that was just part of the upbringing. So, I was actually in Kyle, Saskatchewan, at the SCMA chapter event and in the hall there. And I think I had crushed about 14 Pilsner before I had to sing 3 songs. Bryce Lewis was there that night. Glenna Switzer. Who else was? Mark Penner, I think, was playing too. I was just an absolute wreck. Like, I think my heart was beating about 170 beats per minute. And I had to get absolutely bombed to get up there because I was so worried about. And when you look back and you go, why was I worried? Well, number one, I was worried that what I was doing was wrong. Number two, I was going to suck. And number three, they're all going to laugh at you. It's just those instinctive things that are happening in your head. And you know how that anxiety stuff takes over a person's brain. And yeah,
it's funny. I'm super outgoing, like loud, center of attention, super asshole, like Andrew liked to say, narcissistic, egotistical asshole. But I did like high school speeches all throughout. Like I used to go to provincial speaking competitions, and I did debate in high school, and I got up to be the MC at my buddy's wedding. And like, I was shaking a little bit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I know everybody in this room. Like, why am I nervous?
My biggest fear, my biggest phobia throughout my teenage years was public speaking.
Yeah.
And
now you're up on fucking stage.
I'm up on stage.
When did it get easier? Or maybe it hasn't, but
well, anybody says they don't get nervous. I think you need a little bit of nervousness to maintain your edge. It's like when people play a Stanley Cup final or a hockey game, you got to have that. Nervous keeps you awake, right? It shouldn't cripple you. That's the point, right? But I don't know if it's maybe you just get to the point where it's like, well, what are they gonna do? Hate me? Oh well.
Yeah,
so
be it.
So be it. Like it. Maybe that comes with age too a little bit. When you're young, you're so concerned about things that are so trivial.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, right? So, I think when you get older, maybe that's been the combination of it. That I just, it's like, what are they gonna do? Boo me off stage and never add me as a friend on Facebook? Like, really?
Once you have like, I think it's also like about not necessarily just age, but like experiencing certain things happening in your life, and like once you have like those big, sometimes traumatic life events happen, it's like, I remember especially after like my dad passed, it was like people would complain about their dog dying, and it's like, boo fucking who, your dog died. Who gives a fuck?
You know, and I hate to say that, but I in some ways it's like you're right. When you, for example, I've been listening to these audiobooks when I go to bed the last couple of weeks, and so a lot of them I've been turning to that dad range. So I'm listening to World War II audiobooks, right? And these guys that have written their stories about the experiences of World War I. I don't know. I love history and stuff like that, and Vietnam War and Korean War and you name it. But listening to some of their stories and the trauma on how it affects a person, how they say it affects you when you get out, how you can't relate to things that are not as traumatic. And it's just like, well, what are you worried about? You're not trying to diminish what someone's going through.
Exactly.
But it's like, it doesn't affect you the same way, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing that like I didn't realize until, because I had avoided going to therapy for a long time, and then finally I had some panic attack issues, and like went to the hospital one day, thought I was fucking dying, and they're like, yeah, you're 100% healthy. You're for sure just having a panic attack.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, maybe I need to address this. So I did, and then that's one of the things that you talk about is like what the typical trauma response is when you had a traumatic thing happen to you, and it's like check. And one of the things is, like you said, having a difficult time empathizing and relating with things that aren't
what you don't consider as traumatic, right?
Exactly.
Because you've already been through something that is what you consider worse, and maybe in some ways it is, but for the person that's going through the other thing, to them that's their worst, right? So it's tough, right? And it's a
thing that your brain does to, and it's the reason why talking and being with people is so important, because what that does is it has you feel isolated, and the more you isolate, the worse the cycle gets. That's why getting help and talking is so important.
Actually, an amazing lesson that Andrew taught me through his son. He was talking about how his son had, I don't know, he like had a lollipop and he dropped it or something like that.
2 or 3 years old.
And he like fucking freaked out. And Andrew's like, I can't empathize with this. Like, it's a fucking lollipop. I'll get you another lollipop. There'll be another lollipop. And he's like, but then I realized it's like, because of how Drew was only 3 or 4 at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, that is the worst fucking thing that ever happened to him in his whole life.
You're right. You're exactly right.
It's like, that's it. Like, the worst night you ever had
just happened to
laying in the drunk tank, ashamed of yourself, mad. That's his drunk
Have
tank.
you been through a divorce, kid?
Exactly. Another thing that's kind of, it's similar, but like I'm more talking, I guess, about life experience. The Cabri Bulldogs had a hockey player come by the name of Emerson Edom, who was a late first-round draft pick in the NHL. Played for the Rangers, got hurt.
I heard that.
Ended up coming and playing in fucking Cabri. And on his Wikipedia page, his last listed fucking career season is White Mud Hockey League, Cabri Bulldogs, which is fucking, because the Bulldogs don't even have a Wikipedia page, but it's on there.
That's
has
awesome.
his fucking season stats and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were in playoffs, or it was maybe the end of the regular season. They were going to, they had to win games to make playoffs. It was an important game. But I mean, I remember talking to one of the guys. He's like, yeah, Emerson's a bit nervous. I'm like, well, what do you, why is he nervous? It's like,
the pressure probably.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, And one thing that I remember them saying was like, I can't remember which guy told me, but it was like they were talking to him and he just had mentioned how it was, kind of refreshing to not be playing hockey for the money or all that stuff. It's like he was just enjoying it, and he cared about the guys, so he wanted to win. And it's like he wasn't competing for the Stanley Cup, for which at one point he had been competing for the Stanley Cup directly. He's fighting for some shitty beer league hockey team in rural Saskatchewan in front of 250 people. Yeah. But he was like a little nervous in the first shift because it's like he wants to do well for these guys. So I think, kind of tying back into the trauma thing, sometimes looking at Drew's situation and kind of resetting where you're at helps you, he doesn't just stand there like, why do you guys care about this fucking game? It's not fucking NHL. Why does it matter? Or it's like, Drew, you dropped your fucking lollipop. Shut the fuck up. Yeah. Your dad's not dead. I'm right here. But if you can, kind of have those resets and empathize.
And I think too, if you take those experiences, and it's often tough, like you said, you go to therapy or take the appropriate methods to make yourself better in those ways. The knowledge that you can gain out of those situations and experience and wisdom, I think it's huge. And
invaluable
and to be able to relate that to people that maybe haven't arrived at that point. And I even said, like with Beautiful Kind, for example, was written about a friend that was going through some massive depression. So a lot of those songs, like I said, they were pretty intense. I'm sorry to tie into this.
Oh, perfect. Please, exactly.
But it was done. So it's like, it was almost about a healing aspect, because being able to get that stuff out and heal from it. And even though this, like, Wounded Kids is a fairly intense song, but it carries a message at the end that you're still going to make it through it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's huge. If you can, like, you're going back to the trauma, I think if you can take that and try to put it into a positive aspect for people.
Find an outlet.
Exactly.
A creative. That's why I think there's always that saying, especially the art form I love the most is one of them anyways is stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things they say is the most fucked up people are the ones who
dark humor.
That, right? Like
dark humor, man.
The people who excel are the ones who have the most, like you said, I think it's that catharsis of like they have some shit to work out, and what they do is they for yourself, and I think a lot of people it's music. For other people it's something like stand-up or filmmaking or whatever.
Well, you look at all the comedians like Belushi and some of the Robin Williams and all these people that
Chris Farley
that were so entertaining and hilarious people, and were under probably some of the most painful things in their lives.
Oh, fuck.
But they were able to go out there and, like you said, and make us laugh. And we didn't even know what was going on underneath the surface that well as the general public, maybe. Their close people might have known it, but it's amazing. I shouldn't say it's amazing. That's not the right word, but
it's amazing that they can do it.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not crippled by it. They're using that as a tool. And I mean, why waste that life experience moping? That's one of my things. Like, I had some childhood trauma stuff, and it's like, well, I could.
Now we laugh about it.
And I could just fucking sit and dwell in it. But why don't I use that experience and, know,
well, it's
shake
like
it off?
I said to you, it's like the dark humor thing. It's a coping mechanism.
Absolutely, and it's a good one.
Because it's like if you can laugh at yourself and get over it and still build strength from it, I think that's such a positive thing. Because if you don't, sometimes it will just sit there and eat you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, to give you a little example, like that's always been our family. And it was like within a year after my dad had died, and my mom and my sister were having some argument. And I was sitting there, and my mom says to my sister, "Well, too bad, so sad, go tell your dad." And there was just this long pause. And then we all just died laughing because it was just like such a inappropriate thing, but it was just so funny, and it was just exactly the
I'll tell you,
thing
like,
we needed at the time.
Honestly, something that I did not think would be, I don't want to use the word traumatizing because it wasn't traumatizing, but something that was a powerful moment for me. I've seen deceased people before. I've seen Andrew's father when he passed away. My mother was in an open casket, which I didn't know I'd seen. But I'd never seen a dead person before who had not been prepared to be dead. And I found a dead guy in the Cabri Hotel. And it is, to this day, the thing I get called about most, 4 a.m. People hammer telling me, tell us a story about when you found Victor dead. Because I've turned it into a joke.
The funniest thing about this is, like, for a while, Brad, part of the story is that Brad ate breakfast. He got a free breakfast that he couldn't eat afterwards. And it was like 6 months or not quite a year after it happened. And Brad's like, you know what? I used to love eating breakfast food. Now I hate it. I'm like, oh, it's because you're associating the trauma of finding a dead person with breakfast. And you're like, for a second, you're like, no, it's not.
And it totally
and then like a week later, you're like,
it's psychosomatic, totally. I through the power of soft-boiled eggs, I've been able to eat breakfast again. I'll tell you the story of Victor because everybody should hear the story about Victor. It's not that long of a story.
And the story of Victor, for the recording, it starts right here.
Yeah.
So we're going to put a stamp here for all you Cabri people. Who just stop calling Brad at 4 a.m.
It's live here.
It's live. It starts here and go.
So I had been working for a friend of mine. I was a farmhand for a few years. I'd been a farmhand for a few different guys, but a buddy of mine pulled me out of retirement and brought me back into farmhanding because he gave me enough money to. Anyway, so we had been seeding and I was working the night shift. And I got off the drill at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He took over. I went to bed. And I was supposed to come out and help him fill the drill, and then I was going to go back to bed again. I'm like, well, fuck, I'm awake now. I might as well stop at the hotel and have some breakfast. So I pulled in there, like I just had a power nap, like 2.5 hours. And then I fucking pull in there and I order 2 eggs over easy, brown toast with bacon and a coffee. And I can hear these two ladies, a dear friend of ours' mother, who was a cook at the time, and this other woman named Deb. Deb was a neighbor of mine and very close to my farm. Deb, God rest her soul, she was a bitch. And Deb would tell you she was a bitch, and her son will tell you she was a bitch. Deb was not a very fun person to be around it. She was miserable as all hell, and she didn't mind being miserable. And I spent a lot of time with her son, and I never heard Deb say a positive thing in my goddamn life. So I could hear Deb, and she told it how it was. Deb did not sugarcoat things. So I could hear Deb and Donna talking in the back, and they were talking about how this guy who worked for the Armor Riverside, he was a grader operator, hadn't been around for the last few days, but his truck was out front of the hotel. And Deb said, well, I knocked on his door on Saturday, but he didn't answer, so I didn't think anything of it. Donna says, well, I'm going to go check on him and see if he's up there. Maybe he's gone. Maybe his room needs cleaning, whatever. Maybe he went home with his family. And Donna turns to me, my breakfast isn't there yet, and she says, if he's dead up there, I'm calling you. And I'm like, fuck, he's dead now. Like, you just signed his death warrant. If he was alive up there, he's dead now. So Donna goes up the stairs, and a few minutes go by, and I can hear her crying, Brad, you better get up here. I'm like, Donna, I'm 2 hours asleep. I don't have time for this. And I can hear she's crying. So I fucking go upstairs, and I open the door. She said, you better open the door and check. And I open the fucking door, and he's dead. And he's been dead for a while. And she's like, is he dead? Are you going to go check? I said, sweetheart, I'm not going to check. That gentleman is deceased. I don't care who you are. I don't need to be a doctor. From 60 feet, you can tell that Victor is not doing well. So I go downstairs, and I say to Deb, well, I've never found a dead person before, so do you call 911? It's not really an emergency. He's dead. They can get here in 2 days if they want. So she calls the dispatch in Swift Current, and I can hear the phone in that fucking kid. She's deaf as a fucking bat, so you can hear this fucking phone as loud as you can anywhere. Hi, this is 911, or hi, this is whatever hotel PA, or not hotel, fucking EMS, whatever. How can I help you? Yeah, this is Deb Hankins. We got a fucking dead guy at the Cabri Hotel. Okay, ma'am, where is that? What do you mean, where is it? It's the hotel in Cabri. Ma'am, I've never been to Cabri. I don't know where that is. Well, it's on Railway. It's a goddamn hotel. You can't miss it. And the lady says, what's the problem? We got a dead guy. I told you that already. Ma'am, have you checked? Is he breathing? Well, I hope not. He's fucking dead. So they go on back and forth, and Deb hangs the phone up finally, and she turns to me and she says, you sure he was dead? I said, yeah. She said, well, I used to work in a morgue, and it would probably bug you, but I don't mind seeing dead people. I said, okay, your breakfast is over there. So I go sit down, and I dip my toast in my eggs and eat a few slices of bacon, and I'm done. I can't eat. I grab a couple monsters out of the fucking fridge. She says, yeah, well, you can probably have breakfast for free. You probably don't need to pay today. I said, well, I really appreciate that, Deb. Anyway, so I turned to Donna. I'm like, do you want me to stay? She said, you better get out of here. You don't want to have to be here to fill out police statements. You got work to do. We can tell them everything that happened. I said, all right. Deb says, yeah, have a good day. I fucking head out the door. I get in the fucking truck, and my boss calls me, and he's like, where the fuck are you? Like, I've already filled the drill. Like, you're late. I'm like, I am so fucking sorry, buddy. I had the worst fucking experience, but you will not believe what happened to me this morning. And he's like, why? What? I said, Deb Hankins told me to have a good day. Also, I found a dead guy in the Cambridge Hotel. So that's my Victor story.
Oh,
As a
boy.
small town guy, I'm sure you can appreciate how well that goes around the bar.
I love how you don't need to know anyone involved in the story to find it hilarious. And like if you do know these people, even like I don't really know them, but like I
You
know
already get a
who they are.
characterization of
So
them,
it's just like it takes it from that level. It's yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my way of dealing with trauma through comedy, which I think for the three of us is a very fitting topic.
Absolutely.
We have I don't know 70 plus comedy skits that are like half written, ready to be filmed, but just don't have the time to slash the the bulletproofness to film them.
Yeah.
And I always love that because my family, of course, we grew up without any TV or anything in the house, right? So it was always in big families, but it was always based on like the storytelling aspect. And I remember my uncle Dave, and he was just one of those guys that he didn't have to do much, and he was funny. And I remember as a kid sitting there and listening to them talk and stuff, and it'd be just amazing to get those kind of guys with humor and stuff. And dealing with trauma through humor, and I was always exposed to that too. And I love that kind of stuff. You have to, right? Humor is a spice of life.
I think that a lot of that comes from rural Saskatchewan roots. It's like, hey, it's minus 40. There's no sugar or butter, and we live in a sod house.
Yeah.
What's good to do? It's like, well, we could freeze to death, or we could try laughing.
Or we could try for the
It's like
14th kid.
music, laughter, sex, or how many fucking kids could you have? Because my grandma had 13 siblings.
Drinking, smoking.
Yeah, no, they couldn't even get tobacco in the middle of
I know.
fucking winter.
As long as you can see over the counter back then, you can buy cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Send the 5-year-old for smokes to town.
Maybe,
Take the horse.
Maybe if he lives. I dug graves for both of you. I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Unless I get mauled by a bear on the way for supplies.
Yeah, exactly.
You were a good man, Jedediah.
I remember my dad telling stories because his dad would send him to the local store and with some money, and he'd
Pin a note to his shirt.
give me a pack of Lucky Strikes or something. He's lighting 2 on the way home and ride the horse home bareback. It's like, what a time. Not a bad time.
Yeah, like fucking dirty 30s, and like, yeah, that's the thing. So these settlers get established, and then everything goes to shit on them again. Yeah, it's like, where's Pa? Well, he tried to take the rope to the barn the other day because he couldn't see it, but the rope broke, and now he's dead. So, and we're dead too.
He
So
got a cholera on the Oregon Trail.
yeah, exactly. He died from diphtheria.
It's wild how there are people who can be funny and like you said, like be like that charismatic, funny person in a group, like sitting around.
Yeah.
But like get those people on stage to like perform. That skill, it's the same skill they had for that group of even 20 people is like.
Yeah, I don't think I could do stand up. I'm good at usually with a small crowd. Like I can get
we
people laughing.
we know you're not funny at stand up.
Right.
know for a fact.
I tried to do a fun stand up skit for Andrew's family reunion fucking cottage festival
so
thing.
wild.
And what had happened?
It was just it wasn't Brad. Brad took it very personally, but it was like my narcissistic family loves to fucking like talent show things, these little things these parties we'd have, and Brad's there.
These are white people.
So white, the whitest of white.
It's like everyone's in ballet, the men, the women.
Yeah, everyone's living, laughing, loving.
Yeah, exactly. Live, laugh, love tattooed
Signs everywhere.
right here.
Every room of the house.
Every room. No, there was like, I don't know, 50, 60 people there maybe. Anyways, my sister is a very talented ballet dancer, of course. And so a bunch of people, of course, we've already talked about this.
We should have not assumed otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. You look at me, you know, any siblings I have,
Obviously, her Valadrika.
Anyway, like, so it's her and like a bunch of like people who are in her like dance families who's there. So the talent show is just like an excuse for these already very like idolized kids that receive all this attention to strut their stuff even more on a smaller stage. So everyone's sitting there, and they're kids, right? So you don't want to be like, we don't care. Like,
We want to keep drinking.
you don't
Please
care
stop
about this. Please stop. So everything stops for these kids, and it's for some reason that year. Well, it's because we got rid of the bat. Anyways, terrible bugs, worst bugs we've ever had. So everyone standing around watching the talent show is like pissed off because of these bugs. And then Brad goes up to close it out. I can't remember exactly why that happened.
Because I think your mom was like, "Get up there, you're so funny." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Jane,
yeah.
I really don't want to do this." Like,
Oh, what was it? We had to wait for something. So it was like in between
like supper
the
was
final
getting
act
ready,
or something. I can't
girl,
remember.
I don't know.
Something stupid. Anyways,
I
Brad
got coerced on to go
Yeah.
on stage.
So Brad goes up, and it's just like he's obviously doing stand up, and it's just crickets. Just crickets. And people are like agitated. And Brad took it very personally, but it was just because they were standing outside and there were bugs. But Brad's like, oh, no,
A few of the people who have good taste thought I was
They
hilarious.
thought you killed it.
It was
It was
one of the
funny.
best sets
It was-
they've seen.
I was laughing.
Dave Chappelle, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Dave calls me for advice now. Andrew filmed this set on his old flip phone, and he watches that once a week before he goes up.
It's
on
considered
stage.
more influential to
Avant-garde.
comedy across the board
Yeah,
than Delirious.
Yeah,
It's way more
absolutely. Eddie
influential.
Murphy ain't got nothing on me.
Speaking of comedy, do you remember in school? Like, I was a big kid in school. I still am a big kid in school. But do you remember, like, we'd have to do like 4 track and field events, right? So I was like shot put, javelin,
Yeah.
discus. And I think they all got together on the school board and said, we're going to make this kid do a running event too. I had to choose like the 400 meter dash, right? The worst thing for me to do. I get about 200 meters and pull a hammy. That was pretty much the guarantee on that. But yeah, where was I going with this story? I can't remember now. Fucking whiskey.
You were forced to. Anyway, actually, on that note, they tried to get me to do high jump. I was actually a runner in school, believe it or not. I was a fucking sprinter, fast.
Really?
Fucking
This guy, football, he had a, what would you have?
like a 5.840 I ran, and I was like
5.840?
308 pounds.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
I'm still pretty quick, but it's not besides the point.
He
Anyway,
is deceptively, like we should cut a video of Brad running here because it's wild.
I had one of these young guys that were playing senior ball in Cambridge foot race me. We were drunk at Swift and I just blew the fucking doors off him and he couldn't believe it. They had people bet like $50 on whether or not I would win or not.
Brad is that guy.
But
who you bet on.
they tried
Yeah.
to fucking get me to do high jump, and I don't jump.
No,
I don't. I'm run, and I shouldn't run for my size, but I don't jump. Anyway, so I would just walk up and just fucking stiff arm the pole off and then lay down on the fucking thing.
It was
And
like-
my teacher made me do 3 fucking attempts. I'm like, well, I'm doing it again. She's like, you're going to embarrass your parents. I'm like, good. They already don't want me to be here. They already don't want to be here. So
Yeah, see, like, I was never good in it. Actually, I got suspended from in-school suspension for chasing kids around the track with a Suburban. Because I took like as little classes as I could in high school just because that's what you do. But we just hung around that day during the track and field event. We were chasing them around the track. I was grade fucking 7s or 8s. Yeah, so I got a Suburban around the track, revving her engines, trying to get a motivation to go faster on their jog. But
I was fucking telling Evan, Andrew's brother-in-law works for me, and he's from Ontario, and he loves fucking guns and hunting.
Yeah.
But he didn't get to do much of that in Ontario. Now he just does it like crazy. Buys and trades and sells guns, and he loves that. And I used to hunt lots, but I don't anymore. But when I was a kid, and this was like 2000s, early
Gun racks
2000s.
in school?
Like I'm only fucking 29, but like I had a gun in my locker.
oh yeah,
I had a 22 with a clip on the, and my teacher's like, you can bring that in, just don't put the clip in.
just make sure your lock's on the lock.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can have that 22 mag in here, buddy. No banana clips, and you leave that in the top shelf or else. And then we would go shoot gophers after school.
Well, I remember seeing it. Yeah, I remember going to school at 16 with a 22 in the back seat.
Yeah.
Like, because
Nobody thought nothing of
it
it.
was not a big deal.
And this was not like we're saying, like, Will's older than I am, but this was not the 70s. Like,
No.
this was, you know.
It's just different environments, right? Like now, you know, I've heard of people, they bring a piece of wood that looks like a pistol.
Yeah, you're fucking going to jail.
Drew, he's in grade 1.
Oh, you can't point.
No, he can't. He's not allowed at recess to pretend that he and his friends are fighting an imaginary monster. Like that's violence, buddy.
Oh boy.
And like not violence directed towards each other, because even that I could maybe understand.
I've
It's
heard
like,
people
why?
getting suspended for throwing snowballs. like suspended from school
Yeah,
for throwing a snowball.
we had that only because the principal I had at the time got hit with a snowball when she was a kid, and the whole left side of her face went numb.
See,
So,
the best way to do is you'd put a rock.
yeah, she had a
inside
piece
this-
of ice in the middle of a snowball, paralyzed the left side of her face, so we weren't allowed to
Nobody
do that.
appreciates
I don't
it.
disagree.
Nobody appreciates a good concussion anymore.
You know, if the aliens don't come in the next 20 years, we're probably fucked. I won't be in fighting shape anymore, and I don't know who's going to stop them.
Oh, you think about the times like even biking, no helmets, no elbow pads, and those stupid fucking pedals on those older bikes that were basically like serrated edges.
Oh, yeah.
Like cracky in the shins, and you'd be down.
It's
for,
funny that
Slice your shin open.
I think about, I see all these memes that like parents post about like, this is what we did back in my day. And it's all about the 70s. And I'm like, that's because you're a city person. That shit lasted another 25 years after you. Because you grew up in fucking Toronto and that shit was cool. And we just finished doing that shit.
In some ways, it's probably good that kids don't get near the injuries. That's for sure.
No.
But the merry-go-rounds, though, those things were. I love those things. You put a bike, like a Kawasaki dirt bike tire against them, and get them whipping so your centrifugal force was like enough that you couldn't hang on anymore.
And then we used to like,
off them.
we used to like take fucking leaf blowers apart and then fucking stick a wooden wheel over where the fan used to thread on and then mount that on a bike, and you could get a big bicycle ripping with one of those. Kids don't do that shit anymore.
No.
You almost killed each other with a potato gun as well.
Oh yeah, I brought Andrew out to fucking. We built a potato gun. He had a trailer mount, and then we cut golf balls in half and drilled screws through them and fired them out of the fucking potato gun.
I did the broom handle.
One of my favorite.
The broom handle that were you almost impaled?
We shot a fucking broom handle.
One of my favorite things when I worked in Gull Lake for Harbuzz, and I think it was Kodiak or Harbuzz. I don't know what it is now, but during breakup the one year we built a potato cannon or paintball cannon or whatever, and there was a bunch of us. That's all we did was just shoot that thing, fill it up there, and blast it out there. It was so much fun. I love doing that kind of stuff.
Potato guns are so much cheap.
Oh, and
I would love to see the list of shit that I have charged to my dad's co-op account for funnel, tube, valve to make beer pong or beer funnel, and then tons of PVC cement, aerosol sprays and shit, like cans of ether.
I love the
barbecue lighters.
I showed up to your centennial that year, and we'd been driving for like 4 hours, and Brad pulls out a beer bong with two like hoses out of a jerry can.
I made a 20-liter jerry can.
And
I called it the jerry bong.
So they poured like almost a full 2-4 of beer into this fucking jerry can. They're like, okay, 2 of you now have to just bong this thing. I went from fully sober to just like can't see straight.
I put an 1.5-inch line with a cam lock fitter on the thing. Oh fuck, that was awesome.
It was it's the quickest I've ever gotten drunk.
Well, I don't miss those days of getting that quick drunk.
No, that was a.
And just especially in your early 20s, you're just a punk too.
Oh yeah,
like
And
super.
you're invincible. You're invincible, and then the hangovers happen.
I just had no hangovers. Finally, a buddy of ours from home, like he's like 29 now, and he just started to get hangovers, and he used to get zero result. He could drink and stay up all night, not fucking sleep, and he would not have a hangover. Fucking work all day. And this, like 2 years ago now, he fucking got his first hangover, and his dad fucking asked him to eat one of the canola fucking mini bulk bags broke. So he had to scoop the whole thing out with a broken ice cream pail with a hangover. And he's like, if this is what you guys have been having all these years, holy fuck, I feel bad for everything I've ever done.
Well, I remember the days in working in oil patch too. They're down in Gull Lake and truck driving and boiler trucks and vac and great bunch of guys working with. They're all about the same age, at 23, 24 and stuff, and party. And there was probably a January, I don't think I didn't drink like for that whole January, and you look in the mirror and you're like, you're just yellow by the time that month is over.
I remember working on a fucking Shonovan with some boys from Newfoundland, and as soon as they were for Benoit Pipeline, and as soon as they'd fucking get off shift, they'd get a 60-pounder. drink the whole fucking thing just about one night. And I go over there and they're making mushroom tea. I'm like, boys, I'm not into that shit.
Yeah.
And they're fucking drinking mushroom tea. And this one guy's wearing a bear rug and he's rolling on. I'm like, it's 35 degrees out. This guy's going to fucking die. I need to get out of here. Then later I'm fucking driving downtown and this guy's fucking, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And this guy's standing in front of the police station naked. But we'll just underwear on. Somebody fucking arrest me. Get out here and fucking arrest me. Needless to say, the pipeline had a few errors. And then one got kicked off the job. They had to hire somebody else.
But it was so busy back in the early 2000s down
They couldn't
in
keep
that
enough guys
country.
hired.
Like, you remember coming over that Bench Hill and Gull Lake going south, and it was just lights of rigs everywhere.
fuck
Like, if you couldn't get a job at that time, you must have been you were dead.
I was living with a guy. He called himself Cody. Moved out in the middle of the night because he rolled a fucking boiler, and we found out he lived in Texas, had 3 different identities, and they were looking for him all over the fucking states. Took off in the middle of the night. He gave my brother-in-law his laptop because he left it in the house. Called
crazy,
himself
eh?
Cody. Was not named Cody. Originally
Unreal.
from Texas. He went to the fucking Christmas party and rolled the fucking boiler.
Yeah, I think the one night at a Christmas party, the only time I remember, they said, "Oh yeah, it'll be open bar." At what was it? What was the bar in Gull Lake there? On the main drag.
What the fuck do they call it back then? It's called Last
changed.
Chance Bar and Grill now. But
Yeah, what was the one? What was it before? I can't remember.
it looks like it's got the fucking roof coming out over top of that.
It's got like kind of a wooden side on it.
Outlaw or some shit or.
That was so much fun. Like I remember going
That
back.
place was wild back in the day.
and what was the Clarendon?
Whiskeys, was that what they called it?
Whiskey's in the Clarendon. Wasn't the
Yeah,
Clarendon?
the Clarendon Hotel. It's burned down now.
Roger used to own the Clarendon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, some of the times back in that town, man, I don't know how it survived. Like a lot of us, it was just unreal. I had such a blast though.
Oh, fuck, those were the days.
Still feeling nostalgic.
Nostalgic? Yeah, no, she's not quite the way I remember. You used to go down to Shondaman or Gull Lake in the winter. It was just fucking Cummins and Duramaxes idling all winter as far as I could see. Guys are fucking parked.
You walk into like the gas station at 5 or 6 in the morning, bloodshot eyes, Red Bulls, and gas station sandwiches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And chew.
Yeah,
What's your spray breakfast that you feed the boys every morning?
we like the Jimmy Dean's breakfast sandwiches with the sausage patty, and then usually I have like a Red Bull or a green apple. No, it's like that. Yeah, no. I mean, I got one last story because we should shut down, but you'll really fucking love this. So, you know where Console is, obviously.
Yep.
So this was probably like my 3rd or 4th year spraying, and my dad used to own an oil field service company in Gull Lake. It was called G&P Oil Field.
Okay.
It was up on the hill, like right when you come into town over the railroad tracks, you turn to the east, and then you go up the hill where all like the RM yard and everything is.
That's
up there.
right where Harbuzz and
Harbuzz was up
Lone
there
Star
too.
was up there too,
Yeah,
right?
Lone Star was up there too.
Yeah.
So Dad used to own a pretty big company. They had a lot of rigs. They built like that CCS plant all the time. Dad's actually built most of the batteries and stuff.
Really? That's
Yeah,
cool. I didn't know that.
That was mostly. Yeah, that would have been like. He sold out in '97.
Oh, okay. Before
A little bit before you were there, but yeah, the shop was up there. You know where it is. Anyway, so Dad would tell me some stories about back in the day, but I'd never seen anything like that because Crescent Point owns everything now, and it's very corporate and clean cut. And so I go to fucking Console, and there are 2 operators looking after 140 wells each, and they're not checking them. And this guy says he's going to meet me at the battery at 8, so I show up at the fucking battery, and he gets there about 8:40. I'm texting, he doesn't answer. He pulls his boat with his Cummins right in. He's got his boat already on, like, trailered up. He gets out, he's in fucking shorts, flip-flops, button-up fucking Hawaiian shirt. And he's like, I'm like, what's up? He's like, I'm going fishing. I just want to stop in and show you the map
Do you remember his name?
to mark off. I can't.
Brownie?
No.
Okay. Remember a guy by the name Brownie down there that
I can't. There's 2 fucking guys. I can't remember. One guy I worked with, he sprayed with us later. But anyway, so we go into the fucking office. And I'm like a little shell shocked that like I've never even seen an operator not. I've heard of them not wearing PPE, but I've never seen it. He gets in the office, and it's like just a fucking random battery. They have, like, each of these guys look after 4 batteries, so they just have the office for their own personal shit. Fucking puts his feet up on the desk. You want a drink? I'm like, no, I'm good. Fucking fine, suit yourself. Pulls the fucking door out, red solo cup on the table, fucking whiskey into the glass, Coke, pours himself a fucking whiskey and Coke, and he's marking the map off for me. Mind if I have a smoke? I'm like, you're not gonna smoke on lease. Like, I've never seen this before. Pops it with his thumb, grabs one out, grabs a fucking cigarette right in the fucking battery.
just cowboying it.
8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. He's like, all right, I'm going to be fishing, so I'm not going to have any cell service. Don't get lost. And fucking takes off with his fucking boat. He's going fishing all day.
Yeah, I see. Even when I was there, like it was obviously
More cowboy.
Well, a little more rules and stuff too were coming in. Like,
Yeah.
but I could imagine back in your dad's generation. Just from the stories I've read over the years in different areas. Like, yeah, that was straight badass.
You
straight
wanted
that
work,
went
you
on.
brought whiskey to the battery, and you
Yep.
fucking brought the boys steaks, and then you got to work. And
Yeah.
it wasn't about what your fucking safety rating was with course ask and all that shit. Now
Yeah.
it's just fucking paperwork, and spraying's not bad because I don't have to put up with most of the paperwork.
Yeah.
They just want us to show up and do our fucking job, and it's like
Not fuck around.
not fuck
Yeah.
around. It's like see
Yeah.
no evil, speak no evil. They don't
Yeah.
want to see us. But
Oh yeah, times have for change, and I was even listening back to some '90s music here the other day, and I'm like, wow, just watching the Woodstock '99, for example, like how crazy that was, and I'm like, that just seemed to me that it happened yesterday, and it's shit. It's a long time already, you know.
that's like circle back finally to Core Blend. I love Roughest Neck Around.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking song is just the
Yeah.
oil field in a fucking. There's lots of oil field songs, but nothing competes to pulling fucking dragons from the ground. That's a
Drag-
fucking.
What's the other one?
Ground.
Tool for the Job.
Yeah, Tool for the Job.
That's a good one too.
That's-
Because that's every farmer.
Yeah, that's my hired man Evan. I put that on the fucking bar. I can play like music in the cable bar and the touch tunes from here
Yeah.
because I have it registered on my phone. So when he goes to the bar, I fucking play Tool for the Job because that's his theme song.
We laugh because even if I'm working on something, I'm like, well, I have a Crescent, I'll just bang it with the Crescent.
Yeah,
you know, it's
exactly.
like, and it's the same thing.
Hammer
Everybody's
for
done
wrench,
Yeah,
wrench for
wrench for a hammer, hammers everything else. Yeah. Good. Well,
Sure
thanks
enough.
thanks for coming by and
Hey,
being on
thanks
the
for having me.
podcast.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
This is great.
Is there anything that you're promoting upcoming, stuff you want people to watch or listen to?
Nothing out for a bid yet. Just the ones that have been released. Facebook.com Will Ardell and YouTube Will Ardell and iTunes and
Like, share.
yeah, spread the word, as well as these gentlemen too. Prehistoric Productions do amazing work. They've done all 5 of my last videos. I think now 5.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
Archery.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Perfect. Fran, you want to sign us off?
Yes, I was here the entire time. Thank you very much for watching the Prehistoric Podcast, or the 12 Podcast of Christmas, I guess. We'll catch you next time.
Perfect.